Now, if there's one thing that you've known about me, especially if you've been following this channel for the past 2.5 years, is that outside of being a Miami Heat fan, I love young teams. I love watching the process. I love watching young players grow. I love them coming up with new things that may raise hell in the NBA. And the Detroit Pistons are one team that definitely caught my eye. I said this last season also, and I expected them to be a play-in team. But of course, things went wrong last year, and it wasn't because of a lot of things that were in the players' control. From not playing some of the shooters that you at least do have on the roster, like Alec Burks or Isaiah Livers, more than you should have, or Cade going down with a shin fracture within 12 games of the season. Saddiq Bey, again, one of the only volume three-point shooters on this roster, just being tossed to the side pretty quickly, are things that I really didn't expect to happen. But you can't really bite the hand that feeds you, and they got you a top 4 pick and one of the better players I think in the past draft, and a player I do really believe in, Ausar Thompson. And going into this year, I think this team also is completely filled out in a lot of the places they need to be, and with a jump from Cade that was supposed to come last season, especially with the way he was playing from the jump, and from what we've seen over the summer so far with some of those summer workouts, I do think Cade Cunningham and the Detroit Pistons are about to make a lot of people believers into what this team can get done. Let's talk about it. Last year's Detroit Pistons team was an interesting bunch. You can see where they lack the shooting that needs to be on a cohesive roster nowadays in the NBA last year. But you can also see that a lot of injuries did affect them. And you saw a lot of bright spots coming from guys like Jalen, Duren, Jaden, Ivey. Hell, even some bright spots coming from Isaiah Stewart and even Marvin Bagley. Guys that, you know, are going to be a core of this roster, whether it's through trades or just through what they are right now, and grow along with the team and become the overall centerpieces to build a true championship contender in Detroit. Now, with all that being said, Cade Cunningham is the guy that's going to lead this ship. And last year, he was upping almost every single stat from points per game to rebounds per game to assists per game in the 12 games that he did play. The efficiency wasn't there yet, and he was taking 19 shots per game. And his three-point percentage kind of dipped, which is kind of bad considering that he only shot 31% his rookie year. But with all that being said, he looks like, from the runs we've seen from Rico Hines and from what we've seen from a lot of people talking about him, he's going to come in next season with a lot to prove. And again, you can't really judge a lot of players by just 12 games in a season, especially if they're under, and he was dealing with this shin injury for a good amount of time. Right now, from what we've seen, the playmaking and just feel for the game has gotten better, and overall, he is still a very, very strong body, good scorer. But I think where people do not, really, I guess, see the light as much as others do is his defensive ability. The kid is an amazing defender. He's one of those guys that doesn't really slide with his defender guard. He is quick enough to get in front of you and stop you from penetrating. He's a guy that's 6'7", strong body, but he's most likely going to be guarding guards and some smaller forwards. So he's most likely always going to have the strength advantage. And a lot of cases, he's going to have the speed advantage also. He's going to be able to wreak havoc. He's shown some anticipation in the passing lanes. But overall, his main defensive staple is just understanding, communicating, and being able to stay in front of a lot of everybody and give you really good contests, which is all you can ask for a defender. And I think that's his best asset as of right now, considering how good of a scorer and playmaker he is. That's already saying a lot. So I do expect Cade Cunningham to come in and play a lot better next season. Now, for all the people that are giving him most improved player odds and things, I don't know how I feel about a player that only played 12 games the previous season and is a #1 pick in his draft, getting most improved player in his 3rd year. That seems kind of defeating the point of the whole award. But I do think you can bet for him to at least have a run at his first All-Star appearance. I think you see him definitely fight to, put his name up there with the Anthony Edwards, the Shai Gilgeous-Alexanders of the young players in this league as some of the best. And I do think he's still the best player to come out of his own draft class. So we'll see what comes out of this and how good of a player he is. But as of right now, I do believe in Cade, and I do see the light on a lot of his abilities. A strong forward, very big first position that can pass like no other, can score with the best of them, get to the rim, penetrate, and defend like a damn beast. But to get to the good stuff, the guys I want to talk about are the young guys on this roster, specifically Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren. 2 guys that are amazing. Now, I already made a video on Jalen Duren extensively about overall what he is to this team and how good of a player he already is, whether it's being one of the best rebounders and offensive rebounders in the game already, and being absolutely incredible at finishing the ball, and has a lot of great defensive chops that if he does expand on them, he could be great. And overall, his underrated playmaking ability, I talk about all of that in this video. So if you want to check that out, you can either click at the top top right there, or at the end of the video. But Jaden Ivey specifically is somebody that I truly enjoyed watching last year. 16 points per game, 3.9 rebounds, 5.2 assists. Doesn't cut to just how good he showed last season. Of course, a lot of the questions coming in for an athletic guard, a lot of athletic guards, is of course the shooting. Can the shooting translate, or can the shooting get better in the NBA? And overall, he shot 30% on catch and shoot threes, which is really good considering he's going to be playing off ball. He was scoring on a lot of cuts this past season, and he shot overall 34 to 35% from three for the entire year. Now, the problem with Jaden Ivey is two things. One, he fouls too much. Actually three things. He fouls too much, his defense is a little bit to be desired, and he really cannot finish at the rim at this level. Well, last year at least. You expect an athletic guard coming in the NBA with that much bounce, and overall a stronger body, not really wiry, to be able to finishing at the rim where you saw the bright spots and other stuff kind of came as you hope they did. But that's not really the key with him. His finishing needs a lot of work, whether it's within the lane, whether it's at the rim, or just in that floater area. It needs a lot of work this past season. Again, he was shooting a putrid 57% on layups this past year at the rim, and he was shooting about 33% within the 3 to 10 feet area. That's about the floater range. It's not good. It really isn't. And if he's going to be effective scorer and second man for this team, he needs to be better at finishing around at the rim. Teams are just going to let him get to the rim and meet their big man a lot of the times. And hopefully he makes some bad decisions as a passer coming out of it, because also he was turnover prone last year. But again, you expect that from young guards. But overall, the shooting was a lot faster and come along a lot faster than he expected to. And overall, the passing definitely shows that he has flashes of being a very good playmaker. He could be a number one playmaker on a roster, but as a tertiary playmaker, and as a guy that focuses on scoring, he definitely fits the bill for this team. And he's definitely a guy that can play next to Cade as long as their shooting does get better as time does go along. If you see him become a 40% catch and shooter and he's able to shoot maybe, I don't know, 45% from the field and maybe 35% overall, 36% overall from three, I think you do see a player that's a core for this roster for years to come, and one of the best players next to Cade and one of the best number twos in the league. And then you have the litter of bigs. We already talk about Jalen Duren, but the James Wisemans, the Isaiah Stewarts, and the Marvin Bagleys on the roster. The problem with the bigs that are on this roster is that none of them shoot. Isaiah Stewart came in last year, he shot 33% on 4 attempts per game, which is great. Marvin Bagley shot 20% on 1.6 attempts per game. But Isaiah Stewart is showing that he's trying to make himself a lot more valuable. He is showing that he's trying to diversify his game. He was one of the forwards that could score consistently and was a great pick and roll partner for Killian Hayes and for Jaden Ivey so far this past season. The guy is just great. He produces on a minimal amount of shots. He understands his role and he plays it really, really well. Of course, he was injury prone this past season, so he didn't get to play over 60 games. He only played 50, but he's only 21 years old. And being able to go from shooting virtually not even 1 3 a game to 4 3s a game and still shooting in the 33%, and close to the league average, that's a thing you can really hope to get better. Not to mention he doesn't suffer from a lot of the problems that the bigs have at the free throw line, shooting 82%, and he's a pretty strong rebounder for his size, as he's an undersized power forward / center at 6'8", but he's strong body, knows to finish at the rim, a good team defender, and overall improving as a shooter. And then Marvin Bagley is another guy that he has a repertoire of scoring inside the arc, but does shrink the floor a lot, and he caused a lot of bad issues for this team on the floor as a spacer. But off the bench coming on as a scorer, he'd be fantastic. A guy that can get to it, that can get a bucket every now and then. Team James Wiseman is a black hole. He gets the ball in the post. He's not passing that ball out. Defensive problems are through the roof. He doesn't know how to guard the pick and roll correctly. So big, yet can't provide adequate rim protection at all. And he was fighting with Jalen Duren for a lot of his minutes, and I'm not gonna lie, he lost that battle horribly. And those improvements didn't really show overall in Summer League also. In fact, he was losing minutes in Summer League. I don't believe in his space on this team, but again, he's only 21 years old. And of course he's 21 years old. And I understand why people don't want to take a flyer on somebody that's good that quickly, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm ready to go along with Killian Hayes. They don't really, pop out at me. Killian Hayes, again, shot even worse than what you expected, 37% and 28% from three. Again, no left hand. Sure, he has the defensive chops and he can pass here and there, but he just doesn't have it as a scorer in the NBA. He'd be better off if he was in a couple years earlier, like around the Jason case that was shooting around those percentages and still being effective. He's just not great in this era of basketball unless he develops that jump shot. And then you have Ausar Thompson, the kid that I think has a chance to be the number one player on this team. Then again, you have guys like Cade and Jalen Duren that can fill that spot also, but I do think Ausar has a chance to be that guy. 6'7", over 200 pounds, one of the best defenders, young defenders in the NBA already, and hasn't even played a game, but the summer league looked amazing. Reacting time like a damn cat. Can play on ball defense and off ball defense really well. Led the summer league in steals in 2.3 per game and one amongst the best in fours at 1.8 blocks per game. Just really good athleticism, really long and athletic, and he's the best shooter of his brothers. It isn't saying much because they really aren't great shooters, either of them. But if that comes along well, which is, you can say a lot about this Detroit Pistons team, but if that comes along, you can see him become one of the most dominant scorers in this league. But we'll get to the more nitty-gritty of his game in a full video. You can expect that to come out maybe within the next week or so. But Ausar Thompson is definitely one of those ones. But then you look at this entire roster and the cohesiveness you have around those core guys, and you have the shooters where those guys like a Bojan Bogdanovic, Alex Burks, or Isaiah Livers, guys that were on this roster last year, didn't get a lot burn or just were injured last year. And then you have the new guys you add in like a Joe Harris or Monte Morris, two guys that are really plus shooters, and a guy in Monte Morris that's really good, handle the ball in the pick and roll. I can calm a team down for a couple minutes there. He doesn't have to be your main playmaker, but he's definitely a guard that can handle maybe a couple minutes off the bench, leading the show. Overall, showing that you understand what this team needs in the shooting. You understand that this team could become one of the better defensive teams in the NBA, and I think they can do what the Orlando Magic did last season, where a good part or a good chunk of the season you see them be a 500 team and fighting for spots in the Eastern Conference, ready to take that next step. Of course, I don't want to see Cade winning Most Improved Player because that's just unfair to what the award is, but I do expect the production for Jalen Duren to go up, the efficiency to go up for Jaden Ivey around the rim and from three. I do expect to see a pretty dominant rookie campaign from Ausar Thompson. I do expect to see some improvements in the shooting of Isaiah Stewart, and overall, let's see how well Marvin Bagley can you really fill in on this roster. And hopefully James Wiseman proves me wrong and is a positive to this team. He doesn't have to be a starter, or he doesn't have to be, live up to the his draft what you expected him to be draft night, but just be productive and not a complete negative on this roster. And I think he'll be able to fit in just fine. With that being said, let me know in the comments down below. This is FIB, that's my time, and I'm out. If you want to check out any other videos I made on the Detroit Pistons and any players I have a video that I made of Jalen Duren right here. So if you like that and you like decent Pistons content, stick around, hit that like button, subscribe button. I'd love to have you back here.